Good morning. This is Virtual PBX-admin training. Going to give people a minute or so here to get or to join us if they are. And I'll make sure everything is broadcasting properly. The training is going to last about an hour and a half, give or take. Mostly depends on load times. We do record these trainings, so you can always come back later and watch the rest of it if you can't stay for the whole time. That also allows you to share the link with other staff members who need to become system admins. If you look in the show notes, there's some other links to some other videos as well as to the support pages for Virtual PBX. But let's go ahead and get started. So you have on our screen here our dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. To get logged in, we need 3 pieces of information. The first is your username. That's your email address. Should be in all lowercase letters. Right? Then we need your password, which is case sensitive. And then your account name, right? Your organization name, business name, etc. That's not case sensitive. Now, if you have trouble logging in down here, just above the sign-in bar, the right side, there's a forgot your info link. You can click on that, flips it over, right? We still need your email address, right? That's your unique identifier. And then in the following two, we need only one of the 2 following fields, right? So we need either the account name or a phone number that's on the account. And then that's a customer-facing phone number. And then you would click on reset password. When you do that, that's going to send you an email that has a link in it, right? So you click on the link, it gets you logged into a user page where you can change your password. It logs you back out, right? If you try to navigate away from that page, it also logs you out. But you come back here, so you can put in that new password. You have the option here to click on Remember Me, and then you click on Sign In. Now, I'm using a test account, so I log into this on a regular basis. So when I log in now, it's taking me right to the dashboard page. If you just signed up with us or it's your first time logging in, you actually are taken to your user account page. You can always get there on the dashboard after you've logged in. Just look towards the top of the page, just to the right of center. You see your name. Just click on your name there. It's a big pop-up. Comes up, takes the whole screen. Right, you see your email address, but here, that's where you would change your password. All right, just enter a new one, confirm it, click on Save Changes. You can change your time zone and language, etc. As a system admin, on the left-hand side here, you can click on the account level, where you could change things like who the technical contact is or your time zone and language for the entire account. If you need to change the account name here, you actually need to email our billing team, and that's billing@virtualpbx.com, just so they can link up everything properly on their side. Over here on the left, you also have add-ons. This is a new feature where you can add additional features to your Dash account, right? So you don't have to contact our services team. Now, this account only has virtual text available, but for most of you, you'll have things like auto attendance available or advanced reporting, as well as the text forward feature. Some of these will include a price increase, right? But there'll be a pop-up box letting you know, hey, your bill will go up by X amount per month, right? And you have to confirm that before you can continue. But once you do, then the feature is there and available to you. Also down here, we have the billing portal, right? This link right here will take you to opens a new tab and takes you to the billing area. And once you get logged in there, you can see previous invoices or update your payment method. One thing to know, every system admin can click on the cancel account here and follow the process to close out your account. And it doesn't close the account immediately. It closes by your next billing date. I'm going to go ahead and click close here. Closes that pop-up. We're back here on the dashboard. Also, on that first login, you're going to get a lot of pop-ups initially on that user account page, also here on the dashboard, on the users page, and on the groups page. All right, let's go up here at the top again. Your name, click on that, get to the user portal. For most of us, to the right of your name, you have a D&D toggle. Right? If you click on that, and D&D stands for Do Not Disturb. So I just clicked it on, and that means my user's not taking calls. Right? Anyone who tries to, like, if I have a number directly on my user, those calls go directly to voicemail. If you don't have the D&D toggle, that means you've been added to part of the call center or the ACD queues, and that's because the queues and the Do Not Disturb feature do not work well together. Next, further over to the right, we have a little phone icon here. This opens up a new tab, takes you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. It does require a login, and it's convenient in that it only uses your Dash login, right? So same email, same password, same account name. The web phone allows you to use Chrome or Firefox to make and receive calls, right? So it's a VoIP device. It does need to be added as a device on your user for your login to actually work. Little chat text bubble here, or chat bubble. This opens a new tab. It takes you to virtualtext.app. It has its own login. This is what we use for texting purposes. There's also an app that you can download to your phone. This needs to be enabled on the account. So if you just signed up with us, you're going to need to speak to our account services team to walk you through how to get that set up or activated on the account, and then you activate it on a per user basis. The little question mark icon here, this opens up a chat window that you can speak to one of our support team members so they can walk you through any particular feature you're working on. The three horizontal line icon here, it's the menu icon. This takes you to other Dash features. What I'm highlighting here, the dashboard, that's where we're going to be for most of our training. It's like 95% of everything we cover. Some of these others I'll have to refer to links in the show notes, and others I'll be able to talk and show you here. Little arrow icon to the right, that's the logout icon. All right, over here if we go over to the left, it says Virtual PBX, we have dashboard. These are the different sections of the dashboard, which we'll be going to. I'm going to skip around initially. I'm going to start here on the dashboard, and then I'll go to users and then groups. And then I'll go to main number and then work my way down over everything else. So here in the middle, I have total users, right? So I have 6 users on this account, right? So 6 people who make and receive calls. Most of our plans are billed on a per user basis, which means every user I add, the higher my bill goes. I have a total devices, I have 11, and a breakdown of the types. Right? So first up is cell phone. So you can add a cell phone or landline number as a device on your account. So we can route calls to, say, your cell phone, right? So then your cell phone will ring, you can pick up, you can answer, take the call. The limitation there is you're not able to transfer that call to another user on your Dash account, right? You either have to take a message and have your colleague call that customer back, or have the customer call back in and get to the right user or extension number. Next up is soft phone. This is a software application that uses your internet connection to make and receive calls, right? So like the Virtual PBX soft phone app counts as a soft phone, as does, say, if you're using Xlite from Counterpath, right? That's a third-party soft phone. Here we got the web phone, right? That Chrome or Firefox device. This was developed later, which is why it has a separate bucket. Otherwise, it would be considered a soft phone. And then here we have the SIP phone. So a SIP phone is a piece of hardware, right? So it's a physical device, typically connects with an Ethernet cable to your router to get to the internet to make and receive calls, right? But beyond that, it has a handset. You pick it up, you dial numbers on it, just like works like an old school phone. Down here, I have unregistered devices. I have one, and that means I have turned off one of my devices here in the dashboard. That's usually for a temporary purpose, and then I'll add it, I'll re-enable it once it's back in use. Total numbers, I have 15 phone numbers on the account. Uh, every account includes some number of phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. This account is probably over that. At typically for new accounts, I believe it's one main number and then a local number per user. Uh, you can double verify that on the pricing page. And then here I have a breakdown. So first I have assigned numbers and spare numbers. An assigned number is a number that's in use, right? So someone can dial an assigned number and expect to speak to someone or leave a voicemail, be joining a conference, or be sending a fax, right? Spare number counts towards your allotment, but you're not currently using it, right? So let's say you had a holiday promotion running tied to a specific phone number, and now it's over, right? Holiday season's over for right now. You could then put that number in spare, and so now you're not getting calls on that number any longer. Likewise, if you're expanding into a new, like having a new store in a new market, right, new city, you could get the phone number ahead of time so you can start getting your marketing materials ready for it. Down here, the next one I have is USDID and US toll free. US toll free is actually US Canada toll free, right? 800 number, 888, all the way down to 833 currently. USDID just means a US local number, right? So if you have a number in Santa Cruz, California, USDID, just as if you had one in Miami, Florida. You can have international phone numbers on your account. If you're interested in doing so, you want to email our porting team, porting at virtualpbx.com. They need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a number in. They'll let you know if that's possible and if there are any additional requirements. Right? Those requirements come from the country in question. Conference bridges, I have two, and that means I've enabled the conference feature on two of my users. Right? So I have two staff members who host or moderate a conference. Now, up here towards the top right, I have my main number block, which I have 3 phone numbers in. Right, so you have multiple main numbers. Right, this is the default number that your customers call to reach your staff. Right, these numbers all go to the same part of my system. They're all going to have, for instance, the same main greeting. Then you've got the conference number. You can have multiple conference room numbers if you want, for just going to the same set of conference rooms. It's the number everyone dials to join a conference. That includes your staff. The fax box number, you can have one main fax box number, and this is your inbound fax number. This also allows you to edit the fax box associated with this number to allow for outbound faxing, which is via email. Then we've got the company directories. There's 2 download links here. And if I could actually highlight properly. No, here, we'll just do it this way. All right, so there's a CSV file, which again, just use your favorite spreadsheet program. It's going to show your staff members' names, their extension numbers, their email address, and their devices. The softphone link is for use with the VirtualPBX softphone app on a computer, right? So if you're using our softphone app on a Mac or Windows PC, you could download this file and then upload it to your VirtualPBX softphone on your computer. In your contact list, then you'll see your other staff members' VirtualPBX soft phones, right? They'll have their names there. So you can see the status if they're on their soft phone or not. Now, if you have staff members using multiple devices, you're not going to be able to see if they're on like their cell phone, right? But so in that regard, it has a limitation. But if you're only using the VirtualPBX cell phone as your primary devices, it's a good way to see who's on a call and who's not. VirtualPBX Store, this will open up a link in a new tab and take you to store.virtualpbx.com, where you can order things like a VoIP phone, right? One of the SIP devices. And then we have the account realm. Every account has its own account realm. This is used in a couple things. The first, it's for setting up a third-party soft phone or device. It's one of the 3 pieces of information you would need to program that third-party soft phone or app or device. This is also used for sending the fax out, right? As I mentioned, it's via email. create an email like you normally do. In the to field, right, you put the plus sign, the number one, area code of number you're faxing to, you put the little at symbol, and then you put your account realm. Then you attach a PDF and or TIFF, and then click on send. Right, up here towards the top, right, it says VPBX New Hire Sandbox. I have this caller ID button here. I can click on that. It's going to expand it out. This pull down at the top here lets me choose any of my main numbers. It doesn't show properly here on the streaming software, but any of my three main numbers I can select, and whichever one I choose becomes my default number. So for instance, if my VoIP phones would use that number as their outbound caller ID by default. The company caller ID name, or CNAME, this is optional, but in the box here to the right, you can enter up to 15 characters. It will count the space, any spaces or special characters as part of that 15. But this is what will associate with your phone number, right? So it's part of your outbound caller ID. Then the company emergency information, or E911. The system wants a North American address. For our Canadian customers, in the zip code, that is where you would put your postal code. And in the state is where you would put your 2-character province abbreviation. And then you would click on Save Changes. Now, if you made use of the company caller ID name, right, the CNAME field, after you click Save Changes, this information gets transmitted to other carriers who support this feature. It takes them about 3 business days to update their servers. Right? That's not something we can control. But after that time, whenever you make an outbound call from your VoIP phones, we associate this text with your number. Right? So we're sending out basically 2 pieces of information whenever you make an outbound call. That's what we can control. The downside is when your call goes out, right? And this is true when you're when you make a call from your cell phone, right? When your call goes out, when it's going out to its destination, it can go through multiple carriers before it reaches that destination, right? So if you're calling from an AT&T cell phone and you're calling a friend in, say, Grapevine, Texas, right? Your call can go through several carriers before it reaches their phone in Grapevine. If one of those carriers between us and your destination doesn't support the CNAME feature, the CNAME information doesn't get through. The phone number itself would, but not the name. That last carrier, the receiving carrier, they have final say about what shows up on the phones on their network. In an ideal circumstance, they see the number and the name that we're sending, they pass it through. Everybody's happy. What often happens is, especially with the cell phone carriers, is they pass the number through, but not the name. In fact, the cell phone carriers are the ones who put like spam risk or telemarketer in the name. That's something you'd have to whitelist with the carriers. There is a rare circumstance where some carriers will pass the number through, but then they look up the number in their own database that we may not have access to and put that name instead. That does not happen very often, fortunately. Here we have hold music. So you can upload your own media files to play as hold music. Now, what this hold music is for is after a call has come into your system and one of your staff members has answered the call on their VoIP phone, right? And then they press hold on their VoIP phone. That's when this media file will play. You can click on this upload button here to find a file on your system. This system will, on your computer or device. The system will play back a .mp3 or .wav file, .wav, up to 1 megabyte in size. To give yourself a longer duration file, you may want to make sure to record that file in mono, not in stereo. And that will save you or give you a longer file. There's also a pull down here, which you could select any other files you've already uploaded, right? Just so you don't have to keep re-uploading a file. you've already done it once. All right, so hours is part of main number, uh, but especially for a new account, you don't want to get to your main number until you've set up destinations for where the main number can go. So over here on the left, we're going to click on users, little person with the desk icon here. So here's my users page. It shows all my users on the account. The people with the little blue suit icon to the left of their name, right? Those are my system admins, right? So they can make all the changes we're talking about. Dante is just has a little gray person icon. He's a standard user, so he's got very limited access. Right? He can check his voicemails on the website. He can handle call forwarding on the website, but he's not going to be able to make changes to even his own user that much, or anyone else. Up here at the top is where you click on Add User, and you basically fill out the form. So first name, last name, the system just wants some sort of text. Right? Then the email address used for login, this should be unique for each user. Right? The system will not let you, or at least it shouldn't let you reuse an email address for multiple people. This is how the system will communicate with your staff. Right? So like voicemail notifications get sent to this email address by default. Password resets, etc. Password, right? You create a password for the user. The main extension number, you can enter in whatever extension number you want. The system will start you off with extension 1000, so it will then make the next suggestion like 1001, etc. But you can type in whatever extension number you want to use. Now, by default, the system will create a voicemail box for the user, which is intrinsically tied to that user. For instance, after you create a user, and if you added a VoIP phone to that user that registers, the user could pick up their VoIP phone, dial *98 and click send. Right? That will log them directly into the voicemail box that was just created for them. The system will then walk them through creating a PIN number for their voicemail box and then creating their voicemail box greeting. They'll even have the option to record their name for use in the company directory. Right? So then they could basically be all set up. Here's your option to include the user in the user directory. Just put a check mark here. You can always change this later. This third option here is send emails to an alternate address. So if you don't want the email address used for login to get those like password resets or voicemail notifications, you can put a check mark here and then enter a different email address here in this field. And that's, again, something you can adjust later. And then lastly, which I think is pretty important, send credentials to the user, right? So that way, when you click on create user, for instance, this person gets an email welcoming them to Dash and giving them their login information. So they can get logged in, they have the web address, etc. If you need to add multiple people, you would do create user and add another. It just refreshes. It sends an email and then refreshes the box. Once a user is created, you can always click on their name. Right? So you can change their name if you need to. Here is where you would change their credentials, right? So you can change their email address or their password. You can also have the system send them the password reset email, so they can change their password themselves. Oops, I mean to do that. Here you can change the voicemail box PIN number. Just enter 4 digits and then click on Save Changes. Here's send emails to an alternate address. Here's if they're in the user directory or not. Over here on the right, little person icon. This pull down allows you to change a user into an admin or an admin into a user. Little clock icon. This allows you to change the time zone for the user, right? So that way, like, their voicemail timestamps are correct. A little flag icon allows you to change the display language for the web page for this user. You can change it to English, French, German, or Russian. The ringing timeout, it defaults to 20 seconds. It's grayed out here for Dante because he has the follow me feature enabled, so that's overriding that. 20 seconds, typically plenty of time to send calls to a landline or a VoIP phone. If you have a user that's only going to be using a cell phone, you'd probably want to bump this up to at least 30 seconds, possibly as much as 45. Extension box, users can have multiple extensions if you want them to. We just click there and then enter that additional extension number and then save changes. Phone number box, users can have their own phone numbers. You have two options by default here, right? You have add from spare or by new. So add from spare is how you make use of a spare number. You're like, okay, let's add this 855 number, right? I just click on the box in front of it. I click on add selected, and then I click on save changes. Gives me a little green box saying here. So now Dante has a direct number, 855 number, right? Goes only to him. Now by numbers, you have options of local and toll free. This is how you add new numbers to your account. We'll start with toll free. You choose the toll free prefix you want to work with, and then you click on search. And you should be hopefully be given a list of numbers to work with, right? You can scroll down to see more numbers. Click add next to any number you like. You can add multiple here if you wanted to. Now, at this point, you haven't done anything, right? You haven't reserved the number or anything of that nature. So once you've decided on a number that you want to click on the by numbers button here at the bottom. Now you're actually taking control of that number, and the system's going to be adding it to your account. Right, so like if you get called away before you click on that by numbers, it's possible, unlikely, but possible, that someone else could buy that number that you were trying to get while you were away. Now, for local, you need to know the area code of that you want to get a number in, right? So in this case, you can enter 310, for example, and click on search. Now, any area code, including the toll-free prefixes, you can get this message, which is basically just saying there's no readily available numbers in that area code. What you would want to do in this instance is use your favorite search engine and do a search for area code 310 overlay, which would tell you 424 is the exact overlay. And that just means multiple area codes covering the same geographic area. But now you see that there are available numbers, so you can click add, and again, click on buy. So the overlay area codes, right, typically for major metropolitan areas, probably expanding even to not so major metropolitan areas at the rate people are getting cell phones. So it's something just to be aware of. Some of like the original area codes, they were created in 1947. So a lot of those have been exhausted, like New York, for example, right? New York City, original area code has been long exhausted. So just be aware of getting or checking the overlays. Now, for any phone number, a little gear icon here to the right, you can set up the caller ID, right? So you can set up the outbound caller ID, right? The outbound CNAME. You can turn on the ability to accept the inbound CNAME. So that way your staff members can see who's calling them. E911, you can set up the E911 for each individual phone number, right? So that way if you have staff in multiple locations, then you can choose a particular phone number to add E911 information and then assign it to their VoIP phones, right? So that way if they ever pick up their VoIP phone and dial 911, the proper address is sent to emergency services, not like your corporate address. Prepend is a VoIP phone feature. This allows you to put text in front of the caller ID that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones. Basically gives them an idea what the call is about. Oh, also, when you have add a phone number to a user, that phone number is available 24/7, right? It does not have hours of operation. It does not have holidays. So you want to be aware of that if you have someone who's using their personal cell phone as a device, right? Because they could get calls whenever. Next up, we have the device box for a user, right? So when you click on it, it shows their available devices. You can add from spare, which is reusing a device, or you can select new device. First up is SIP phone, right? This is that hardware. Physical device, you can choose a manufacturer, right? Some have a lot of phones, some have like a dozen, right? So find the make and model of the phone you want to work with, enter a name for the device, right? Like the person's name and the word phone, or its location, right? Like warehouse phone versus, Bob's phone. The MAC address, this is unique to each device, usually a sticker on the back or bottom of the device. If a device is plugged in, you want to get to its like status settings or basic settings, and it should show up there. Again, listed as MAC. And then you would click on Create Device, and then you would click on Save Changes. Now, after you click on Save Changes, you want to click on the device box again. And in this case, I want to click here on the name of the device. So I see that I added the J-Link device here. If I want to go to Advanced and then Miscellaneous. And where it says Allow Reprovision, I want to click on Unlock. I'll get the little green message saying that it went through. I want to click Save Changes here, Save Changes here. So now I've told my system, hey, I'm going to provision this phone, meaning I'm going to get it ready for use. As far as our dashboard is concerned, you're done. However, you need to log into that phone's web user interface. If you go down in the show notes, you'll see a document there for auto provisioning phones that has screenshots for these various manufacturers in terms of what to look for and where to go. Also a URL, right? Basically telling that phone to, hey, go to this place and get your configuration file. Right? In some cases, there's some settings that may need to be double checked, etc. But once you go through that, the phone is going to reboot usually a couple of times and then show up as a green device on your system here. And then it's ready to use. All right. Next up, we have cell phone, and this is the same process for landline. Right. So here you give it a name, right? So like your name and cell. And then a number, what? +1 area code and number. And then you click on Create Device, and then Save Changes. So if I click on David's cell here, you see what it looks like here. And right, +1 area code number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses, anything like that. Let's go to Advanced. So like this, with the bottom two options checked, that's the default setup for a new cell phone or landline that you add. Uh, So what happens, right? So call comes in, right? Your cell phone rings. Well, when you pick up, right, when you answer it, the system says this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. Right? So 1, that's a way for you to know, oh, this is a work call. But when you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there, and yes, you want to take this call, right? It then connects it to you. You begin speaking to the person. And that's great and wonderful if there's an actual person at the end of this line to pick up. But let's say, however, you contracted with an automated answering service to answer your calls for after hours. So they gave you a phone number. They said, hey, just send calls to this phone number and our system will handle your calls. Now, if you're setting it to an automated system, right, there's like a greeting that plays versus an actual person that picks up right away, then this setup wouldn't work for that, right? Because that automated system doesn't know how to press 1. It doesn't know when to send the tone. So in that setup or situation, this option here where it says allow use of cell phone's voicemail, you want to put a check mark here and then click on Save Changes. So now when we send a call to this phone number, there's no message about this is a forwarded call. There's nothing about having to press 1. Instead, when our system hears that pickup tone, we connect the call. Right, so then the automated answering service can then handle the call from that point forward. Everybody's happy. Now, one thing to keep in mind is if you have the settings on your personal cell phone that's on the account, if your cell phone voicemail picks up, that's still a pickup tone, right? So that inbound caller can end up on your personal cell phone's voicemail. Some people want that, some people don't. Another thing that can come up is this one here, keep original caller ID. So by default, this is on. And what that means is, say customer Mary calls into the system, reaches my cell phone. On my cell phone, I see customer Mary's phone number. And if I had gotten lots of robo-dialers, or since we're in 2024 here in the US, we're about to get hit with a lot of political calls, I may just let it go to voicemail. Right, so then I might miss a business opportunity. So what I would want to do in that instance is uncheck this one here. So now when customer Mary calls, instead of seeing customer Mary's phone number, I'll see my main number, right? So if I go back to the main number, this number I selected up here, that's what shows up on my cell phone. So hopefully I would recognize my main company and phone number and realize, hey, that's a business call. That's worth me answering. All right, next up we have soft phone. So whenever you add a soft phone or web phone to the account, you get this little warning message. It's about wireless VoIP technology and dialing 911, right? Basically, you could be using your soft phone on your cell phone, wander away from your home office, right? Because you went to a customer site and have, like, on the way there, right? You end up having to dial 911 for whatever reasons. Well, you wouldn't want to do that from your soft phone app on your cell phone because the address that's associated with 911 on your soft phone is with your home office, not where you happen to be. So you want to make sure you read this at least once. But once you're done, you click on close, and then a big box will show up here. There we go. And this right here is set up right now as a third-party soft phone, right? So meaning you're using someone else's soft phone application. And that's fine. If you want to do that, over here, you put in a device name, right? So like X-Lite phone. The SIP username, you would copy and paste this into whatever application you're using, right? It's one of the 3 pieces of information. For that second piece, that's that SIP password here. So you would click on the box to reveal that password, copy and paste it. Please don't change it or delete it. And then the account realm, right? Those are 3 pieces of information you would need for that third-party application to work. You would then click on create device and then save changes. Now, if you wanted to use the VirtualPBX application instead, down here below where it says view configuration guide, there's this text that's kind of hard to see. It's grayed out. It says use third-party application. This is actually a toggle, which you can click on. So now it says use VirtualPBX application. You still need to give it a name, but then you click on create device, and then you click on save changes. Once you click on save changes, Dante in this instance would get an email saying that his VirtualPBX soft phone is ready. In the body of that email, he'll have his username and password for use with the soft phone app, as well as download links so he can download it to his Android or iPhone or to his Windows or Mac PC. Now, you can use the soft phone app on both a cell phone and a computer, but not at the same time, right? So if I'm at my home office, I'm using a soft phone on my computer, right? But now I have an appointment, but I still want to be able to take calls. I log out of the app on my computer, and I can log into it on my cell phone, and I can still take calls on it there. The VirtualPBX soft phone is associated with the email address on your user. So that's why it has to be, you can only add it here on the user page, right? You won't be able to add it on the devices tab. And you do need to make sure you click on that save changes. Web phone, again, you get that warning message. That's pretty easy though, because you just need to click on the, add device name, click on create device, and save changes. Because again, it uses that user's dash login information to log into the web phone. All right. Next up, we have user features. So first up is caller ID number. This is only for users that already have a phone number assigned to them directly, and this allows them to change, allows you as an admin to change their outbound caller ID. Right. So up here, you would click to enable, and you choose a phone number. Right now, typically it's either a phone number on the user itself, or this other number here is under the numbers tab. Right, but basically it's a number on your account, and then you click on save changes. So once you do that, whenever I make an outbound call from my VoIP phones, the phone number I selected here becomes my outbound caller ID, not my main number, right? The 512 number on the main dashboard page. Voicemail box, this is the default settings for voicemails on a user, or voicemail box on a user. Voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, they're full and cannot accept any more. By default, you have 3 ways to listen to messages, but 2 ways to manage. The first way to listen is this one here, right, where we attach messages to email, right? So customer calls in, leaves me a voicemail. I get an email message saying, hey, you have a new voicemail, right? In the body of the email, I have the date, the time, phone numbers involved, and the extension number, the voicemail box number she left the message in, right? And then I have an MP3 attachment that I can listen to her message. But that doesn't allow me to manage it or delete it from my voicemail box. Now, if I wanted to do that, one way up here under the menu icon, and I click on the user portal, and it takes me to my voicemail tabs, right? So I can listen to messages here. I can download it here. If I put a check mark, I can change its status. The other way is to call in, right? So from my VoIP phone, right, I can dial *98, log into my voicemail box over the phone, listen to the messages, and delete them over the phone. Even from my cell phone, right, like if I don't have a cell phone app on my cell phone, I could call into my main number, right, or any number that plays a main greeting first, right, and has menu options. Because at that point, I can hit *97, and at that point, the system will ask me for the voicemail box number, and then ask me for the PIN number. And at which point, I can then listen to messages over the phone that way and delete them if necessary. Now, you also have the option here to delete the messages from the voicemail box after a notification. By doing so, right, your staff members can only ever check voicemails via email, right? Because as soon as we send that email notification out, we remove the voicemail from the system, so they can't check it over the phone or via the user portal. So if they have a problem with their voicemail or their emails, right, they may not get their voicemails. So just one thing to be aware of. This is something you might want to do for like a busy voicemail box that you just don't want ever to get full. Follow me. This is a feature for users with multiple devices. So you click up here to enable. And over here on the right, everything is set up as do not ring, right? You have to tell the system which devices you want to make use of. Right, so uncheck the box of the devices you want to use. You have a little green bar here, and you can click and drag and give those devices a ring time. Now, up along the top here, right, these are timestamps, and the last one you can edit. So I can change this to 600 seconds if I wanted to. It's an awful long time though, but I can click distribute, and now I'm splitting it between these 2 devices. Right now, 600 seems pretty exorbitant, so let's change that down to 90. But now I would need to click distribute again to equalize out between my soft phone and my web phone. Right now I can click and drag these and change the order, and then click distribute. So now it's my web phone going first. And these are still adjustable, right? So I could have more overlap, or if I really wanted to, I could just leave it like that, right? So they're both ringing for the same amount of time. And then click on Save Changes. Now, if I leave it like so, where it's not enabled right now, and a call comes into me, all of my devices that are here under my devices, right, they would all ring at the same time. Right? Whereas with Follow Me, I can, as an admin, I can change the order involved. Right? I can say, okay, I want all 3 devices, for instance, and I can click distribute. Or I said, okay, I want my cell phone at the end, distribute again. One thing to keep in mind is if the user is added to a group, which we'll be getting to next, calls from the group to this user would ignore the follow me settings, right? So they would ring all 3 devices at the same time. Fax box. You can choose to have users have their own fax box, and when you do, you're given the choice to select a spare number, buy a new number, or assign a new extension. I recommend making use of a phone number, as that gives the user the ability to send and receive faxes. However, that potentially increases your cost. Um, if you choose to add an extension number, that's fine, but the person will only ever be able to accept or receive faxes. They're not going to be able to send a fax. Right. So if I select that extension, um, basically the system will try to use that extension number as the outbound caller ID if I try to send a fax out, which would fail. You're also potentially limiting who can send a fax to me in this case, because like some electronic fax services may not have the capability or allow you to add an extension number to a phone number that you're faxing to. Right? They may just only allow you to put in a phone number and click on send. Conference bridge. Up here at the top, this is how you would enable the conference feature for a user. And then you would need to enter in a PIN number for them. And then save changes. The users can change the PIN numbers for their conference bridge under the user portal, which we'll cover at the end of the training. The enable video conferencing, that would be enable your staff to have video internally, right? So all your staff members, they can have video within a conference, but anyone out calling from outside, right? So a non-VoIP phone from outside would not have video. Call forwarding, you have 3 settings here: off, on, or failover mode. Your staff members can turn call forwarding off or on their own, either on the user portal or directly from their VoIP phone. Failover mode is something you would have to set up for them. And this would, and call forwarding is mostly for VoIP phone users, right? If you have someone adding their cell phone number, or, they want you to add their cell phone number as their device, they're already forwarding at that point. You don't need to do a separate feature for forwarding. But in this case, for failover mode, this is when a VoIP phone goes offline, right? Becomes unregistered. And and a call comes into that user at that time. With failover mode enabled, you enter in a phone number where you want that call to go, right? So Bob's phone becomes unregistered, right? His dog ran by and pulled out the cable on his VoIP phone. Call comes in, and even though his VoIP phone's unregistered, the system will automatically forward to his cell phone, right? So he can still handle the call. Customized call recording. When you first enable it, it looks like this, right? The system isn't actually recording any calls yet. You have to tell it which kind of calls you want to record. So inbound internal, right? Dante called me. Do I want to record that or do I not want to? Right? Inbound external, customer Mary called me. Probably want to record that. right? Outbound internal, I call Dante, right? And then outbound external, right? I'm calling customer Mary back. So we often see something like this, right? The external ones or all of them. Now, your account includes some amount of data storage as part of your monthly plan price. Please refer to the pricing page. Or if you're on a much older account, you can contact our services team to verify how much data storage you have and what the overage is if you go over. If you have heavy call volume and you want to record every call, you'd also want to talk to our account services team to see about enabling AWS integration on your account with us. That would allow you to link your Dash account with Amazon Web Services account of your own, so then you can store your call recordings with them, right? Because that heavy call volume is going to be cheaper with them in terms of data storage. Also for uh, insurance agents, I believe there's a mandate to keep your call recordings for 10 years. You're probably going to want to do that with AWS as well. In fact, that's the recommendation that we have. Music on hold. You can choose to have users have your own have their own on hold music. Click here to enable. Right, upload a .wav or .mp3 file up to 1 megabyte, or use a pull down to choose a file that's already on the system. For instance, if you want your salespeople to have a hold music that mentions, particular promotions versus a standard one that the rest of your staff uses. Do not disturb. Click to enable, right? It means you're not accepting calls. And then hot desking. This is a VoIP phone feature. This is designed with a shared office environment or hybrid scheduling, right? So you would click to enable, and then you enter a hot desk ID for your user. So like if you use 4-digit extension numbers for your users, just make their extension number their hot desk ID. You can choose to require a PIN number or not, and then save changes. So what happens, right? I come in the office on Tuesday, I sit down on desk number 2, I pick up the VoIP phone there, right? I hit *11 to turn on hot desking on that phone. The system will prompt me for my hot desk ID. I enter that, and then it tells me that calls will now be sent to this device, right? So anyone who's trying to reach my user, or me, right, gonna ring at the phone I'm sitting at. My end of my workday, I pick up that phone, I hit *12, enter my hot desk ID, turns off hot desking. Next time I come into the office, well, someone's already sitting at desk number 2. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I sit down at desk number 5, same thing, right? Pick up the phone, *11, hot desk ID, and now I'm getting calls there. All right, groups, right? Also referred to as ring groups or hunt groups, basically departments, right? Group of people answering calls about a similar topic, generally speaking. Up here at the top, you click on Add Group. You need to give it a name. You need to give it an extension number, right? And then you click and drag your staff members that you want to be in the group, and then you click on Create Group. Once the group is created, you can click on the name. At any time, you can change the name to be whatever you want it. Then you have the group call attempts. Little arrows here at the right, you can change it, increase or decrease it. This is how many times the system will offer the inbound caller to the members of the group. Oops. So if you made any changes, click on Save Changes. If you need to remove a group, you can just delete it here. The members box shows your staff members that you've assigned to the group and how you offer in calls to them. So in this instance, I have what's called blast ringing or ring all. Right, so call comes in, it's offered to all 3 staff members at the same time for the same amount of time. Whoever picks up first gets it. Right? Now, just one thing to point out, it's always possible that multiple staff members pick up the call at the same time, but only one of them can actually answer the call, right? So it's possible that Dante and David just hear dead air, like hello, hello, right? But Taylor got the call. Now, in an office environment, they could probably hear Taylor had answered the call. They, oh, okay, he got it, no big deal, right? In a remote working situation, right, you might need to have something like Slack or another communication device to make sure the call was actually answered. You can also, a system admin can look at the call logs to verify. Now, up here, timestamps, right? The default ring duration for a group is 2 minutes, so you can always change that to be longer or shorter. Just like under the follow me, under the user, you click distribute. So now it's always going to ring David first, right? Then Dante, and then Taylor. Now, in a group, the system doesn't care if David's on a call, right? So first call comes in, David answers, he's helping it, right? Second call comes in, David is still offered the call first, right? For, what is that, for 40 seconds, right? And then it's going to roll over to Dante. Right, now you can minimize that a little bit by clicking and dragging, so that way, after 10 seconds or so, the call goes to Dante. Right, or you would leave it as ring all, right? So that way it doesn't matter, right? Then other two people are ready to go. Now, also just like under the following, right, you can change the order, and then you would click distribute. Down here is where you would add more staff members if you needed to, and then you would click remove if you need to remove someone, and then save changes. Now, the upgraded version of groups is the call center. If you look in the show notes, there's the ACD Queues Pro demo, covers queues to some degree. But basically queues, for instance, if an agent is on a call, it doesn't even try to offer it to him. It just skips to the next available person. Extension box, right? Groups can have multiple extensions if you want. Just click on add extensions and add the additional extension number. Right? Groups can have their own phone numbers. Same basics, either add from spare or buy new. And just like under a user, a phone number that's on a group is available 24/7. Then we have group features. First up is ring back. So call comes into a group, rings your staff members' phones, right? That ringing sound is piped back to your inbound caller, right? That's ring back. If you don't want your inbound caller to hear that ringing sound, you would enable this and then upload a .wav or .mp3 file up to 1 MB in size. Now, one thing to be aware of is the system will not loop the file for you. So you want to make sure the file will play as long or longer than the ring duration you have set up for the group. Right? Groups default at 2 minutes, so you want to make sure, for instance, that your files at least plays for 2 minutes. Next action, if no one is able to pick up the call, what do you want the system to do with the call? Right, so you would click to enable, and then this pull down are things on your system. Right, you can send it back to your main number. You can send it to another group, a specific user, a device, or a voicemail box. And then click on Save Changes. Allow call forward. If you enable this, that means your users can make use of call forwarding, i.e. they're not at their normal desk phone. They can forward to their cell phones. Again, if you have users with multiple devices, including their cell phone, probably don't need to enable that. Caller ID prepend. This allows you to add either text or numbers that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones, right, to give them an idea about what the call might be about. All right, so now that we have users with devices in groups, let's go ahead and go to the main number. Your main company numbers, you have little gear icons here, so you can update the caller ID, E911 or prepend. You can always add from spare or buy new numbers to have multiple numbers here. Office hours strategy. You're either open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or you have custom office hours. If you choose custom office hours for each day of the week that you're open, put a check mark in front of that day. And then in these boxes here to the right, set up your open hours in 24-hour or military time. Down at the bottom, you also have the option to have lunch hours, right? So if your whole office goes to lunch at the same time every day, you put a check mark here, and then enter your lunch hours in 24-hour or military time. And then make sure to click on Save Changes. Office holidays. If you're closed for holidays, put a check mark here. And then over here on the right, click on Add Holiday. You have the option here for single day, date range, or advanced. So single day, like I have here for Christmas Day, you give it a name, choose a month and the date, and then Save Changes. Date range, give it a name, and then choose a start date and an end date, and then Save Changes. Advanced is like I have here for Memorial Day, right? So gave it a name, choose the month, and then the second pull down, you have first through fifth as well as last, and then the day of the week, and then Save Changes. If you need to remove a holiday, just click on the little trash icon and then click on Save Changes. And then we have incoming call handling. So for my three main numbers, right? How do I want my system to handle calls during my open hours, during my after hours, or during my holidays? Right, so I have three different uh, times to work with. So during my open hours, I am having calls come here and go to my virtual receptionist. Right, this is a link that I can click on. It's going to open a big old box. On the left here is my menu options. So these are what people can press on their phones to navigate through my phone system. And down here, I click on Add Route. That gives me a new row. Now, the first pull down, you have 0 through 9, the star key, and the default action. The second pull down are things that are already on your system, right? So you can have it go to a specific user, go to a call queue, a group, a device, a virtual extension if you have that feature, or even a voicemail box, right? But it has to already be created for it to show up as an option. On the right, this is your greetings, right? This is where you would say thank you, like thank you for calling, and then you would give directions, right? Press 1 for what, sales, 2 for support, that sort of thing. Your first option is text to speech. This allows you to type in a greeting that the system will read back in a computerized or robotic voice. You can enter up to 250 characters, not words. Does not count spaces. And then the system names the file for you. So because we're in my open hours and it's my main menu, the file name will be main open hours menu TTS. The downside is if I type in a greeting and I update, save changes, and then I listened to it, it didn't sound right, or I missed something, right? I can come back and edit what's written here, but now I have two files called main open hours menu TTS. So TTS is great, right? The text to speech is good for when you're just starting out, you're not exactly sure how things are going to go in terms of how calls are going to route. When you make use of it, after you create the file, on the left-hand side on the nav, there's a greetings tab. And if you click on that, find the main open hours menu, you can click on the wrench icon, and that allows you to change the name, right? So then you can make it something that you can recognize, so you can flip back and forth if you need to, or delete the one you don't need, for that matter. You can upload your own file. All right, click on choose file. The system will play back .wav or .mp3 files up to 1 MB in size. You can choose from an existing file on the system. This pull down will show all your media files on the account. Right? So main greeting files, voicemail greeting files, ring back hold or hold music files. You can record it over the phone. Now, when it says pick up a phone registered on the account, the system means pick up a VoIP phone. Then you would call your main number and enter this PIN number. Now, say you don't have VoIP phones. You don't either want to use them or you're waiting on them to show up, but you want to get your greeting in place with your voice. To get around that, you want to look at the settings, and down here where it says allow outside recording, you want to turn this on. Now you can call in with any phone number to change your main greeting over the phone. Now you still need this PIN number, but basically what you would do is you call in, right? There'll be a greeting in place, right? Just a generic greeting we supply for new accounts. Enter the PIN number. The system will recognize it and then move over, switch over to walk you through recording it over the phone. The file name that whatever greeting that's in place has will stay the same, right? You're just changing the content. And then we recommend you turn that back off so that way random people won't accidentally hit the PIN number and then change your main greeting. Professional recording services, when you click order at the bottom right here, this will open up a new tab and take you to Snap Recordings. They have like 100 voice actors and actresses to choose from. They bill you directly, and then they send you the completed file via email. So then you would come up here to upload your own file and upload it. Right. Now we're going to settings here. Number of retries on misdial. This is how many times the inbound caller can make a mistake. Right? They have one built-in chance. Right? So when I have a 1 down here, that means I'm giving my inbound caller 2 chances to enter the correct menu option. Normally, anywhere from 1 to 3 is plenty for most people. Dialing timeout, this is how much time the system waits to listen for an additional button press. Right? So i.e. for entering the extension number. Right? Allow outside recording, we covered. Allow dialing extensions. By default, this is on, and this just means if someone enters a valid extension number, the system will transfer the call. Right? If you turn this to off, that means your inbound caller could only press your menu options. Right? If they enter an extension number, even if it's a valid extension number, they are told invalid entry. And then lastly, suppress the playing of invalid entry. Right? So after that final attempt, right, the system will say, we did not recognize your call, or we did not recognize your entry. Now, if there's a default action, then the system will send the call to that default action. And then that's probably the case where you want to turn the suppression on, so that way that message doesn't play. The system just transfers the call. All right. If there's no default action, right, the system would just end the call. Would say, we did not recognize your entry. Goodbye. Any changes you make to your main menu, your greetings, or your settings, you want to click Save here at the bottom. Right, it takes you back to your incoming call handling page. You want to click Save Changes here. Right, you're clicking Save twice. All right, so for my after hours, I'm using the second option here, and this is the live operator answer option. The idea being that you're trying to offer the call to one or more staff members, and if they're not able to answer it, then the call goes to your virtual receptionist. So this is a pull down, right? So you can select users, queues, groups, etc. right? And then if they're not able to answer, it goes to this virtual receptionist. Now this is my after hours, so I would have a different greeting in place and different menu options probably. Right, save and save changes. Holidays, I'm using this third option where I'm just saying, hey, skip the call from going to anywhere and send it to this voicemail box. Now, this first pull down, I could still choose instead to offer it to a user, a group, a queue, a device. I can even select a media file, right? Saying, hey, it's the holidays, what have you. But then the second pull down is always to a voicemail box. Right? So choose the voicemail box you want it to go to. Main conference number, you can always have more conference numbers if you want to. They're all going to the same set of conference rooms. You have an option here for a custom greeting. You can click enable and then type in a text-to-speech greeting. And then click save. Even if you leave this disabled, when you call your conference number, the system says, welcome to the conference, and then asks, prompts the caller to enter the conference room number and then the PIN number. Main fax box number, you can have the one main fax box number, but you have a fax box that you can edit. Inbound notification email, it's designed to put an email address here, and this email gets an email every time a fax gets sent in. Right, so on a successful fax, they say you have a new fax, it has a date, the time, phone numbers involved, and a PDF attachment. If someone dials your fax number and then hangs up, right, let's say they call it from their cell phone, for example, this person still gets an email saying that there was a failed fax attempt. Right, it has the date, the time, and the phone numbers, and etc. Sometimes in the caller ID of the phone number, it will also say wireless number. Right? That's a dead giveaway. It was a wrong number. Now, if there's nothing like that, then you'd have to check the call log, or if it's a number you recognize or that you're expecting a fax from, right, you'd want to reach out to the other party and have them retry. Email permissions. This is designed to put your company's email domain here. So like anyone at virtualpbx.com. And that means anyone at VirtualPBX can send a fax out on the system, even if they're not a user on the account. Right? They just need that proper format, that +1 area code and number, and then the account realm. And then click on Save Changes. All right, auto attendance. This is actually a plan-specific feature or add-on now. This allows you to have secondary auto attendance. You would do this if you want to do submenuing, right? So like one for English, two for Spanish, or if you have multiple businesses, right? Because that way the secondary or tertiary businesses, you can set them up as their own auto attendants so they can have their own phone numbers and their own main greetings. Up here at the top, you would click on Add Attendant. You give it a name, you give it an extension number, click on Create Attendant. Once an attendant is created, if you click on the name, it defaults to say unavailable in main menu, meaning it's a standalone attendant or designed to be taking its own calls, right? i.e. separate business. Now, in the case of like this English attendant, I would want to make sure I click on the toggle here to make it available in main menu, because the idea is I have multilingual customers, right? So I would want an attendant for each language that I support, so that way they can go to people who speak their language. Auto attendants can have their own phone numbers. They can have multiple phone numbers if you want them to, right? So you have either add from spare or buy new. The extension box, they can have multiple extension numbers if you want them to. Again, the extension number is something like only your staff would ever really use, right? The transfer, like I don't speak Spanish, so if a Spanish speaker called into me, I would transfer them to the Spanish auto attendant. You have the little wrench icon here under settings. You have open hours, after hours, and holidays, right? This matches what we set up under the main number. If you have multiple businesses and some of them are 24/7 and others are Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, you'd want to talk to our account services team about if you actually want them both on the one account, or if it's better for you to have multiple accounts. The Devices tab shows your devices on the account. The green device here, right, means it's registered, so we can send calls to it. Right? Red devices means they're unregistered, so we can't send calls to them. That could be they're not logged into their soft phone or web phone apps, or in the case of a physical device, maybe it's not plugged in, right? Or it could be they're having some sort of network issue, whether with their ISP or their home network. Black device down here, that means I've turned it off under the enable column, right? I can turn it on and it'll turn green, turn it back off, turn to black. Now, you can add devices here, but you can't assign them anywhere, right? And so the main caveat here is that soft phone, because you don't have that little toggle to make it a VirtualPBX soft phone. You have a little wrench icon here on the right. Under advanced audio for physical VoIP phones, we recommend PC11, or sorry, G711U or G711A. The VirtualPBX soft phone will have Opus automatically over. The emergency caller ID, this is where you would select a number on your account. And if it has an E911 address associated with it, that would show up here. So that way, if anyone picks up this Yailing phone and dials 911, right, this is the address that gets transmitted to emergency services. Greetings tab shows all your media files on the account. Right, has the name here. Source, TTS, text to speech. Upload means the file was uploaded to the system. Recording means it was recorded over the phone. You can play back the media file directly in your browser. If for some reason that doesn't work, you can download the file to your device and listen to it there. This is also something I recommend to download your default greeting, or especially your default main greeting. That way you have a copy locally as well as on the system. So in case anything ever goes wrong, you can re-upload it. Little wrench icon under edit. This allows you to change the name, right? So like the main open hours menu TTS, you can change the name. You can also delete the greeting if you no longer need it. Numbers takes you to your numbers in use, right? This shows you where you've assigned the numbers. You got the gear icon here, so you can update the caller ID, E911, or PPAN. The spare numbers tab shows the numbers you're not using. And if you want to remove a number, then you'd want to click on the box in front of the number, right? And then you have the option here to delete, back here towards the top, confirm the deletion, and now those numbers are removed from your account. Right? By numbers means you're adding a local toll-free number as more spare numbers. Port starts the port process. You give it a name. You choose local toll-free. Then the system wants you to upload a copy of your bill from your current carrier. There's a form to fill out after that. Basically, asks you for a name associated with that phone number, the address that the current carrier has on file. BTN stands for billing telephone number. If you're only porting the one number, that's the BTN. For mobile numbers especially, but also some VoIP phone numbers and some Canadian numbers, the losing carrier may require a PIN number in order for us to port it. So there's a field for that. Toll-free numbers take about 3 to 5 business days, roughly a week, assuming everything is correct. Local numbers can vary. That averages about 2 to 3 weeks. If we get a rejection, we double check to make sure there wasn't a typo somewhere along the line, especially on our end. Or if if you have multiple addresses associated with it, like a billing address versus a service address, then we'll try both to see if those go through. But beyond that, if we're not able to make a correction or find a different alternate information, we'll let you know. It's like, hey, we get a rejection for this reason, which means at that point you would need to reach out to your current carrier to find out what the correct information is. Voicemail boxes shows all your voicemail boxes on the account. Anything that has an entry under the user column here means that was a voicemail box created with the user. But you can add or create your own voicemail boxes up here at the top. Give it a name, give it a voicemail box number and a PIN number, then click on create a voicemail box. Right? So this information is what you would need to like call in to listen to voice messages over the phone or to manage the voicemail box, including changing the greeting over the phone. Now, under advanced greeting media, you can upload a file, right? You can choose from media files that are already on the system. Now, if you have something selected under media and temporary, only the temporary file plays, right? The media file won't play again until you set temporary back to none. Right? This is for the out of office or vacation message. Recipients, your user voicemail boxes have a built-in recipient, right? The email address used for login. But for any voicemail box you create here, you want to click here which says add new recipient and enter an email address for at least one person, if not multiple people. So once you've made sure you have a greeting media in place and a recipient in place, you can click on the already set up button, check mark here, so that way it won't get changed on you over the phone. You can also verify that you have attached messages to email enabled, and if it's a busy voicemail box, so like this is my support voicemail box. So in that case, I definitely want to delete after notification because I don't want this voicemail box to get full ever. And then click on Save Changes. Text forward, this is an add-on feature. This allows you to have a phone number accept inbound text messages and then forward that message on. It's not for two-way communication. Up here at the top, you click on Add Number. You choose a phone number on your account, and then you enter either an email address or a webhook, one or the other, not both. Most people choose an email. Webhook would require that you have webhooks active on your account, and you have something other software that you're linking your Dash account to, like Zapier, for example. So these phone numbers, if someone sends a text message to these numbers, right, these email addresses get an email saying, hey, you have a text from this, here's from this number to this number, here's the text message. Virtual extensions are a plan-specific feature. This gives you some additional versatility. And give it a name, give it an extension number, and then click on Create Extension. And then you would want to add a device, right? Like a cell phone or a landline or a SIP phone, etc. You're not able to add a VirtualPBX cell phone to a virtual extension, however. Call logs shows your call history on the account. You have today, this week, this month, or custom. Any one of these you can download as a CSV file. So if you're good with spreadsheets, you can get quite a bit of information out of it. If you click on a call, you can see further details. So this green arrow to the right means the call came into the system. All right, came from this number and dialed this number on my account and then reached out to this device. I don't know if I have any. Oh, here we go. Yellow arrow to the left, right? That's an outbound call from the system, and I see that it was using this device to go out. The little fire extinguisher icon here, that reports a call, right? So this creates an email for you, pre-addressed to support@virtualpbx.com. It's going to include the technical information. However, you're going to want to type in the context, right? Like, why are you sending this call to us? Because we may not be able to understand that just from the technical information. The custom field, this will allow you to go back up to 12 months of call history. If you need to go further than that, you need to contact our support team. Our engineers can go back up to 18 months total, but after that, the data is not available. So if you need your call logs from some sort of compliance reasons, or just to make sure you have a record of it, I'd recommend doing so every month. Feature codes. These are ways for your VoIP phone users to access Dash features directly from their VoIP phone. All right, I talked about the hot desking ones earlier, but there are obviously others here. This is a page you can find under the support pages. There's also the phone commands cheat sheet under support pages, which has little context help. All right, next up we have blacklists. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you're blocking from reaching your staff. You would click edit blacklist over here on the right, click on add to create a new list. I'm just going to choose an existing list, give it a name, and then choose, are you blocking anonymous calls or not? By default, this is off, which means anonymous calls are coming through, right? On this list, it's turned on, which means they're not getting through. Beyond that, down here where it says list of existing numbers, right, click on add number, and then put +1 area code and number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses. Keep clicking add until you're done adding numbers. Once you are done, click on save here. Towards the top right, click on back to settings. Make sure your list is over here on the right. You might have to click and drag it over. And then click update. Even if the list is already on the right, make sure you click update. And so what that means is any numbers that are on these lists that are on my selected side here, they can call into my system, right? They can call any of my numbers. They'll get busy tone, right? Now it's going to show up in my call log, right? Because the call still reached my system, and then the system said, no, you're not allowed to go further. Call recording. If you're this account is set up for AWS recording, so it's showing that interface. If you're using our call recording on the system, this will actually open up a new tab and take you to recordings.virtualpbx.com, which requires you to log in using your Dash credentials. But there you would listen to your calls, download them, you can delete them. For AWS, you can only download or play them. There's no option to delete unless you log into your AWS account. A monitor is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to see the status of your staff. You can go by employees or by devices, right? All available or who's busy. If there's an active inbound call, they would show up under here. Each one would have a little box and show who they're speaking to among your staff. Likewise, if someone parked a call, you would see like their name and their phone number and the parking spot number. Reports, plan-specific feature. This will open up a new tab and take you to reports.virtualpbx.com. In the show notes, there's the advanced reporting demo. I encourage you to take a look at that, but this allows you to create your own reports. This is an add-on that you can add to your account as well, but definitely go through that advanced reporting demo if you're interested. Voicemails, this allows you as an admin to get to any voicemail box on the account. So you can, like, especially a voicemail box that got full, right? So you can see the message, the date, the time. You got the option to play it back. You can download it. If you click on the little box in front of it, you can move it to a different voicemail box, right? So it got to the wrong person. Or you can just change its status so you can get rid of it. Integration AWS plan-specific feature. This is what you use to link your Dash account to other software. We click on the little gear icon here. The access key, secret access key, and bucket is what we would need from AWS in order to link the Dash account to you or to your AWS account. All right, call center. This is an add-on to existing accounts or upgrade to existing accounts. You'd want to check in the show notes the AC2Qs Pro demo, right? These are an advanced version of groups. You have different call routing strategies like round robin, most idle. It also allows like a manager to eavesdrop in on a call, as well as whisper or barge in, among other things. Dynamic caller ID, plan specific feature. This allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phones. This first one here, all right, give it a name. I chose this 702 number on the account. And I just said whenever my staff members dial a 702 area code or phone number, change their outbound caller ID to the 702 number I selected already. Right? And this is again from their VoIP phones. The other alternative is here where I created a feature code, right? So my staff members need to dial *951, then they enter the area code and phone number they're reaching out to. And when they do so, the system changes their outbound caller ID to the 916 number I selected up here. Faxes is an included feature. This allows you to get to any fax box on the account. You can see your inbound faxes here, right? The date, the time, phone numbers involved. You can download the file. Outbound fax tab. Select the fax box, right? You can see the success or failures, the date, the times involved. If you mouse over the failures, you'll see the reasoning. And in this case, it's the system reached out to the phone number requested, but we never heard a fax tone, right? So it failed, right? I.e., probably a wrong number was given. Right, so when you see failures on this page here, that means we had a problem with the other phone number in some case, in some fashion. Email to fax logs, anything that shows up here means the system had a problem processing the request. Right, so it shows you the email addresses involved. The little eyeball icon here would give you the reasoning. So at this point, right, the user wasn't associated with a fax box, and that could be the fax box outbound permissions weren't set up properly. Right, but you can see things like no valid attachment is like the most common thing I've seen. All right, number manager, this just takes you back to your spare number page. SMS registration, this talks about how to get your number registered for making use of texting. You can then start the registration process and see the status. So if you're interested in making use of SMS on your account, you want to speak to our account services team so they can get that enabled. They will talk about SMS registration with you. Webhooks, another plan-specific feature. This allows you to link your Dash account to other software. This is at least some level of programming. In the show notes, there's the introduction to Zapier webinar, which covers some of this. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see sample code of what we have done to link Dash to other software. And then lastly, we have the user portal. Every user has access to their own user portal, right? So I can see my own voicemails, I can play them back, I can download them. I can view my call history, right? And I can change the date range so I can go further back in time. The fax tab only works for users that you've enabled the fax box on their user. The contact list shows everything on your Dash account, right? So it basically allows your staff to transfer calls more easily or see what the feature codes are. The conference tab over here on the right is where your staff members can update their PIN numbers. The moderator PIN and the participant PIN numbers should be different from each other. Right. Then they have the option here, do people join deafened and muted? Do they play entry and exit tones? While in a conference, they can be on this page. The plus icon allows them to invite other Dash users to the conference. Lock means you're locking it so no one else can join. Mute everybody, unmute everybody, or end the conference call. Also, while in a conference, each moderator and participant has their own little box. So as a moderator, you can mute a specific person or kick them out even. And then the settings and devices tab. Right here is where your staff members can enable call forwarding on their own. They just put a check mark here. And then put +1 area code and phone number of where they want to send calls to, and then click on save. All right, so now I am assuming, there we go. All right, so now I'm forwarding. All right, if I uncheck it and click save, now I'm not. And that is everything. Haven't seen any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. I thank you for your time today. As I mentioned before, we do record these trainings and